Iz OFIS arhitekata u Ljubljani trebala je doći na ovogodišnje dane arhitekture špelavi dečnik, koja sa Rokom Omanom vodi ovaj studio. Ipak, iz ličnih razloga je morala otkazati, pa joj je zamijenio mladi kolega Matej Krajnc i održao odlično predavanje u muzičkom centru. Matej nam je pričao o iskustvu boravka u Japanu na postdiplomskim studijama. Kako je to sarađivati sa Špelom i Rokom, koji na Harvardu imaju predavanje i radionice o zemlji iz koje dolaze, Sloveniji, a to je prava rijetkost. Bilo je razgovora i o nekim starijim ostvarenjima, radu sa različitim limitima, kao i o budućim planovima za njihove eksperimentalne poduhvate, poput mikrokuća i stanovanja u ekstremnim uslovima. Matej Krajnc, OFIS arhitekti, Ljubljana. Uživajte.
Hello, Matej. How are you?
Hello. Nice, thank you.
You are here in front of office architects from Ljubljana. Also, we need to mention that you are finish your basic studies of architecture in Ljubljana, and then you have the opportunity to be a part of exchange process of students with Tokyo. Can you share that experience a little bit?
Yeah, that was actually a very nice experience. It was an extraordinary opportunity to go there and basically to experience the complete culture. We're all, I think, fans of Japanese architecture in general, and it was really nice to experience all of that in real time and in real life, to see how it works, to see how their society works actually. And to be able to meet lots of people there who are interesting in each in their own way. So it was really a great experience.
When did you join to Office Architects?
I joined first in 2017, and yeah, have been working there.
That was after that Tokyo experience?
No, that was actually before the Tokyo experience. I got the chance to go to Tokyo after, so I put Office on hold and went there.
Can you share that your point of view and your thoughts about how is that as a young professional to work in such a well-known office from our perspective?
For me, it's actually a great fit because you're able to work on much larger and much more interesting projects than you maybe would if you started at an office that doesn't have that sort of projects to begin with. So in that respect, I really like it. I also really like the way that the office functions, because it's still quite a flat structure of people in the office. So it's not flat hierarchy. So basically, you can talk to anybody about anything. It's not like strict and formal, and you also can learn quite a lot with that, because we're all involved in the design process, also in the execution process, and it's really great to see like your mentors in action, and to be able to join them in that action, basically.
In 2010, your office was a part of joint venture that is Spaceville project with the Clever Gregoric architects Sadar Vulga and Berk Perovic. Do you think that something like that is possible in the near future again?
That was actually a very unique project in that regard, because there was supposed to be a competition for the project, but basically all the biggest or well-known offices in Slovenia, instead of competing, decided to make the project together, which is, I think, a unique situation for a unique project. So if such a unique project should come around again, it might happen again. But like for commercial projects and stuff like that, I don't think it's likely. Yeah.
Your the partner in your offices. I know for their nickname from Harvard.
Mm-hmm.
Spela once tell about that. That is like the balcony guys. They go there because at the beginning of their career they are such they're such in that housing typology for such a long period of time, so they develop a lot of different facades, model and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Are you still working on that kind of building, and are you still maintain that kind of a process? And also, do you have time to visit some of older housing projects?
Yeah, we actually still work a lot on housing projects. Right now, we're working on 2 large housing projects in Ljubljana, and I think the process is quite similar, but it all depends on the plot basically, because with the original plots of the early projects, all the volumes of the building were exactly predetermined. So a lot more work was focused on the facade studies, on the terraces, on stuff like that. But with the 2 projects we're developing right now, we were lucky enough to come in at an extremely early phase, where we were actually able um, to create different typologies of volumes, and then because a detailed urbanistic plan was either way demanded by the municipality, we were able to get those volumes approved by the municipality through the detailed urbanistic plan. So it wasn't a fixed volume situation as it was before, but we still work a lot on the facade structures, and we still work a lot on the outdoor spaces of apartments, which I think are very important in a climate such as ours. So it's an important topic for us.
And do you get some reviews from older housing projects of your studio?
Yeah, sometimes we get some reviews also in terms of like acquaintances who might live in one of them and stuff like that. And generally, I think they really like them. I mean, some might have, I don't know, problems with the way the building is managed now, which is 20 years after it was built, but that's hardly
for any building.
That's not
same position.
That's not exactly the way. I mean, that's not exactly a problem of the architectural design. That's a whole other story. Yeah, but otherwise, I think people are very pleased with
this product.
With the product. Yeah.
I think that the first competition that OFIS did and won back then was abroad was Paris student housing projects or something.
Yeah, that was one of them.
And that was a totally new experience for office architects because of rules and regulations of Paris, and also of what architects should do in that new environment in Paris. And also there is that experience from Belarus, from Bate Borisov Stadium project. That was totally different for someone that are using some locally language of architecture. And how challenging is that to work on some other location, some that is not a part of your past, and try to be as best as possible?
Yeah, it's very interesting because in the competition phase, of course, I mean, you study the location, you study the, I don't know, the history of or the context in which it's supposed to be built, but until you win the competition and actually start developing the project, there are many things that you're not aware of. So after you start the detailed development, you really see how architectural work functions differently in different countries. For example, in France, the Chamber of Architects is really strong. Everything is strongly regulated, but in a way that's really, in most cases, benefits the architects. You also have to find local partners, form relationships with locals. So in Paris, we actually opened a branch there.
OFIS architects. Yeah.
Yes, as a consequence of winning that competition, firstly, and then teaming up with a team of structural engineers with whom we're still in very good relations to this day, and with other for MEP and for electrical engineering. And it's really interesting because you see how all of those people working together is different to the way it is. For example, in Slovenia. In Belarus, it's a completely different system. It was actually a public project, so it was really like the relationship with the client was extremely interesting, and they actually like the original plot was supposed to be somewhere else, but then they actually moved the whole stadium. It was this is decided, it's moving
On higher level.
on a higher level. Yeah, exactly. So the way the country functions is completely different to what we are used to, and that with that comes
The architecture, different kind of the
architecture.
product. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I
After-
mean, the product and especially the process of creating it is completely different in different countries.
Yes. Are you still working on some projects abroad?
Yeah, we still do a competition abroad from time to time, but currently we're actually extremely busy with all the local projects. We did, for example, the small house in Tresalen, which is technically abroad, but it's very close. It's a small project, so it's different to the ones in Paris or in Belarus.
We have to mention micro living in extreme habitation. How do you say it? Micro living in
No, it's habitation in extreme environments and micro living. Those were the two topics.
Yeah, I think that is something that was really a refreshment for those years, and all that process of working with Harvard students in Slovenia. I think that Maro Mrduljaš once said, you have something to show in Harvard from your own country, and that is really rare. And what do you think, what is the next step of development, that kind of a project of that extreme environments habitation?
It's actually extremely interesting because there was, at that time, there was a lot of initiative in terms of also, I mean, from our side, also from the students then, and also from the communities of how to say, of like the communities who maintain the hiking paths and stuff like that.
Hiking.
But now I think like the connections we had have sort of not vanished, but they've cooled down.
Yeah.
So we would still be interested in working on a project like that, but for example, after the Skuta shelter and the Kanin shelter, we also did one for Ojstrica mountain, which was sort of assembled, but then not finished or finished differently. And it's always like all of those projects relied really heavily on volunteer work and on enthusiasm. Yeah, they were completely powered by enthusiasm. So they all like relied on volunteer work from everyone, on donations of materials,
from the beginning, from scratch.
Yeah, from scratch, exactly. Everything was basically donated and voluntary, and in that regard, I think it's really hard to organize unless you happen to come across like-minded people who also have the time and the resources at the same time as you do to take on such a project. So
don't you think there is a kind of a market for that kind of architectural products when we think about COVID, about off-grid cabins and stuff like that, maybe?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're also working on a project which explores the topic of micro-living, sort of a glamping sort of situation right now. But it's really different when you're working like for a commercial client and creating a micro-living unit which has to be sort of like sold as something extraordinary to a client, to a tourist client, to someone, or when you're working on a micro-living unit, either for a permanent residence for somebody as an experiment, or especially in extreme environments as a bivouac where people are supposed to stay for the night, basically.
What about that? Just one project of yours crossed my mind. You have one project with, I mean, Guardian Glass or something like that.
Yeah. That one was also
Spain.
really interesting. Yeah, that's the Spanish pavilion, the glass pavilion, which was actually done in Gorafe Desert, in collaboration with Guardian Glass, and it was done actually as a research facility for them to test the quality of their own glass. So the whole building is like glass is the main structure of the building. So all the walls, all the glass walls are actually load bearing. There's no extra shading. So the glass itself has to protect the interior from the sun in the middle of the desert. It's also like insulated only by glass. So it's really a unique project, and they did actually rent it out and collect reviews in order to get
Airbnb reviewers or something.
Yeah,
It's fantastic.
in order to get feedback on their own product, which was great. And it was also but it was an extremely interesting project. But it's hard to initiate a project like that just because you want to do one. Everything has to like align in order to be able to do such a project.
Okay. Can you tell us something about reuse of old printery? And
Yes.
why is that important project, and all about that process from beginning? You told me something before. Who actually initiated that kind of a process in community?
Actually, I mean,
who should?
when the building was in the process of being sold, the heritage protection said that it cannot be demolished because it was protected, because it was built by Savin Sever, the well-known modernist architect, and so the owner actually asked us to show to potential buyers that it could be reused, or that it's still valuable, like the whole plot with this building and others as well, which can and will be demolished. That the whole plot is still valuable for a developer, even though at first glance it would be best for them to just demolish everything. So that's how everything actually started. And when the investor later bought this property, they actually came to us and said, "Okay, now do what you
want with that." Okay.
Yeah, and that was the beginning. And then we completely renovated the entire house.
And there is a second phase of that project.
Yeah, found new use for it. And at the back of this house, there were some storage facilities and stuff like that, which were built after the original, and were not that valuable in terms of architecture. Yeah, and heritage. So that part is actually now being demolished, and there will be a housing development there, which will connect nicely actually with the mixed-use building in between. So we will have a sort of hub of mixed use within the plot.
Matej, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Say hi to